Picture this, July 1974, San Francisco. A young man's body is discovered near Ocean Beach, partially buried in the sand. He's been stabbed multiple times. He's gay. Police investigate, but the case goes cold. No suspects, no witnesses, just another unsolved murder in a city with bigger problems. A few months later, another body, then another, then another. All gay men, all found near Ocean Beach, or in parks around San Francisco. All stabbed to death, all killed after meeting someone at gay bars or clubs in the Castro district. By 1975, police realized they have a serial killer targeting gay men, but in 1970s San Francisco, the gay community doesn't trust the police. Many victims' friends and lovers won't come forward. They fear being outed, losing their jobs, facing discrimination, or being arrested themselves, because homosexuality was still heavily stigmatized and partially criminalized. The killer has a pattern. He meets gay men at bars. He's charming, artistic, non-threatening. He sketches their portraits on napkins while they talk. They call him the Doodler because he doodles while he flirts. Then he lures them to secluded areas, Ocean Beach, Golden Gate Park, rooftops, and he stabs them to death. Between 1974 and 1975, at least 14 gay men are murdered. The Doodler is one of the most prolific serial killers in San Francisco history, and he was never caught. Nearly 50 years later, the case remains unsolved. The Doodler is still out there, or he's dead, or he's an old man, living quietly, his secrets buried with his victims. This is the story of the Doodler, the serial killer who hunted gay men in 1970s San Francisco, the investigations that failed, the victims who were forgotten, and the mystery that haunts the city to this day. Let me take you through the hunt for a killer who disappeared into the shadows and never answered for his crimes. To understand the Doodler case, you need to understand San Francisco in the 1970s, and what it was like to be gay in America at that time. In the early 1970s, San Francisco was becoming the gay capital of America. The Castro district transformed into a vibrant gay neighborhood. Gay bars, clubs, bathhouses, and businesses flourished. Thousands of gay men moved to San Francisco seeking acceptance, community, and freedom they couldn't find elsewhere. But it wasn't safe. Homosexuality was still criminalized in many places. Gay men faced police harassment, violence, discrimination, and social stigma. Many lived double lives out in the Castro, closeted everywhere else. Being outed could mean losing your job, your family, your life. And violence against gay men was common. Gay bashings, physical attacks motivated by homophobia, happened regularly. Gay men were beaten, robbed, raped, and killed. Police often ignored these crimes or blamed the victims. What were you doing in that area? Why were you in a gay bar? The message: you deserved it. In this environment, a serial killer could operate almost invisibly. If victims were too scared to report attacks, if survivors wouldn't cooperate with police, if the community didn't trust law enforcement, how do you catch a killer? That's exactly what happened with the Doodler. The first known Doodler victim was discovered in July 1974. Gerald Kavanaugh, a 49-year-old man, was found dead near Ocean Beach. He'd been stabbed multiple times. His body was partially buried in the sand. Police investigated but found no leads. At the time, they didn't connect it to other cases. San Francisco had a high crime rate. One murder didn't set off alarms. But then more bodies appeared. In late 1974, and throughout 1975, several gay men were found dead in similar circumstances, stabbed multiple times, often near Ocean Beach or in parks, all after being seen at gay bars in the Castro. The victims varied in age, from their 20s to their 50s. They varied in appearance and profession. Some were white, some black, some Latino, but they all had one thing in common: they were gay men who frequented the Castro bar scene. Police realized they had a serial killer. They called him the Doodler because several survivors and witnesses reported that the killer would sketch portraits, doodle on napkins, while talking to his victims in bars. Here's what investigators learned about the Doodler's pattern. He was young, likely in his 20s, black or possibly mixed race, handsome, soft-spoken, and artistic. He carried a sketch pad or used napkins to draw. He approached men in gay bars, popular spots like the Bojangles or other Castro clubs. He'd strike up conversations, flirt, and sketch the man's portrait while they talked. The sketches were good, detailed, flattering. It was a seductive move, charming, disarming. He'd suggest leaving together, going for a walk on the beach, to a park, to a rooftop, somewhere private. The victims, flattered and attracted, agreed. Once alone, the Doodler attacked. He stabbed them repeatedly with a knife. Some victims were killed instantly. Others were wounded and left for dead. And here's the critical detail: at least 3 men survived attacks by the Doodler. They could identify him. They saw his face. They talked to police. But they refused to testify. This is the tragedy of the Doodler case. Police had survivors. They had descriptions. They even had sketches based on witness accounts. But the survivors wouldn't cooperate fully because they didn't want to be publicly identified as gay. One survivor was a well-known entertainer. Another was a diplomat. A third was a prominent businessman. All three feared that testifying in a high-profile trial would destroy their careers and personal lives. In the 1970s, being outed as gay could ruin you. So they gave police information privately but refused to testify in court. Without their testimony, police couldn't build a case strong enough to arrest and convict anyone, even if they found a suspect. San Francisco Police Department formed a task force to hunt the Doodler. They interviewed hundreds of people. They staked out gay bars. They worked with the gay community, asking for help. But cooperation was limited. Many gay men didn't trust the police. They'd been harassed, arrested, and mistreated by law enforcement for years. Why would they help now? Others feared being outed if they came forward as witnesses. The gay community tried to protect itself. Activists distributed flyers warning about the killer. Bar owners posted notices: be careful, don't leave with strangers, stay in groups. The gay newspaper, the Bay Area Reporter, published warnings and descriptions. But the Doodler was careful. He blended in. He looked like any other young man at the bars. He was charming, non-threatening, artistic. No one suspected him until it was too late. By mid-1975, police had a suspect. Based on survivor descriptions and witness accounts, they identified a young black man in his early 20s who matched the profile. He was known to frequent the Castro bars. He was an artist. He fit the description perfectly. Police brought him in for questioning. He denied everything. Without physical evidence linking him to the crimes, and without survivors willing to testify, police had no case. They couldn't charge him. They had to let him go. And then the murders stopped. After 1975, no more bodies were found matching the Doodler's pattern. The killings just ended. Why? Several theories. Theory 1, the suspect was scared off. Police questioning him might have frightened him into stopping. He knew he was on their radar, so he quit.
Theory 2, he moved away.
Maybe he left San Francisco. Maybe he continued killing elsewhere under a different pattern. Many serial killers move to avoid capture. Theory 3, he died, or was incarcerated for another crime. It's possible he died in an accident, from illness, or was imprisoned for an unrelated offense. Many cold cases are solved when investigators later discover the killer died years ago. Theory 4, he's still alive, living quietly. The Doodler could be in his 70s now, living as an ordinary person, his past buried. We don't know. The case went cold in 1975, and remained cold for decades. For nearly 40 years, the Doodler case collected dust in San Francisco Police Department archives. The victims were largely forgotten. The gay community moved on. The city changed. But in 2019, something happened. The San Francisco Police Department reopened the case. Why? Advances in DNA technology. Investigators hope that evidence collected from crime scenes in the 1970s, blood, clothing, trace evidence, might yield DNA profiles that could be compared to modern databases. Cold case investigators also hope that social attitudes had changed enough that survivors or witnesses might now be willing to come forward. In 2019, being gay is no longer the career-destroying stigma it was in 1975. Maybe someone would finally talk. In February 2019, SFPD announced they were actively investigating the Doodler case again. They released a sketch of the suspect based on 1970s witness descriptions: a young black man, early 20s, slim build, artistic. They appealed to the public: if you know anything, come forward. If you survived an attack, we need your testimony. Times have changed. We will protect your identity as much as possible. The announcement made headlines. The Doodler case became news again. True crime podcasts covered it. Documentaries featured it. The gay community in San Francisco remembered. But no arrests have been made. As of 2024, the Doodler case remains unsolved. Let's talk about the victims. Because in true crime, it's easy to focus on the killer and forget the people whose lives were stolen. At least 14 men were killed by the Doodler. Some were never publicly identified because their families didn't want it known they were gay. Others have been named over the years. Gerald Kavanaugh, 49, found July 1974 near Ocean Beach. He was a sailor, a regular at Castro bars, stabbed multiple times. Joseph J. Stevens, 27, found in his apartment in August 1974. He'd met someone at a bar the night before, stabbed to death. Klaus Christman, 31, found in October 1974 near Spreckles Lake in Golden Gate Park. He was German, visiting San Francisco, stabbed repeatedly. Frederick Elmer Kappen, 32, found in November 1974 near Ocean Beach, another regular at the Castro bars, stabbed to death. The list goes on. Young men, middle-aged men, all killed in the same brutal way, all mourned by lovers, friends, in a community that was already marginalized and suffering. Many victims' families never knew their sons were gay. Some families refused to claim the bodies. Others held quiet funerals, ashamed, refusing to acknowledge the truth. This is the human cost of the Doodler's crimes, not just 14 deaths but 14 lives erased, forgotten, denied even in death. The Doodler is not the only unsolved serial killer case. There are others, some even more prolific, but the Doodler case is unique because of why it remains unsolved. Societal homophobia prevented justice. If the victims had been straight women, would police have worked harder? Would survivors have testified? Would the case have been solved? Many believe yes. The Doodler case is a reminder that marginalized communities are vulnerable not just to violence but to being ignored by the justice system. In the 1970s, gay men were disposable in the eyes of many. Their murders didn't matter as much, police didn't prioritize the cases, prosecutors didn't push, and the killer knew this. He chose victims he believed no one would care about, and largely he was right. As of 2024, the Doodler has never been caught. If he's alive, he'd be in his 70s. He could be living anywhere. San Francisco, another state, another country. He could be dead. He could be in prison for another crime. His connection to the Doodler murders unknown. Original suspect from 1975, the young man police questioned, has never been publicly named. Some investigators still believe he was the Doodler. Others think he was innocent, just someone who fit the profile. DNA testing on evidence from the 1970s has been attempted, but results have been inconclusive. 1970s forensic collection methods weren't as sophisticated as today's. Evidence degraded over 50 years. Some evidence was lost or contaminated. Cold case investigators continue to work the case, but without new leads, it's difficult. Most witnesses from the 1970s are dead or elderly. Memories fade. Evidence disappears. The Doodler might get away with it forever. But the case has had an impact. It's taught investigators about the importance of building trust with marginalized communities. It's a reminder that justice delayed is justice denied, and it's a symbol of how far LGBTQ+ rights have come, and how far there's still to go. 14 men dead, at least 3 survivors who could have identified the killer but didn't. A suspect questioned and released. A case gone cold for 50 years.
The Doodler is out there. Or he was. Maybe he's dead now. His secret's gone with him. Maybe he's alive. An old man, haunted or not, by what he did in his youth.
We'll probably never know. The case will likely remain unsolved. The victims will remain unavenged. But their names should be remembered. 14 gay men, killed in San Francisco in the 1970s by a serial killer who drew sketches in bars and lured them to their deaths. The Doodler, the artist who killed, the man who got away with murder because society didn't care enough to stop him. 1974 to 1975. At least 14 dead, 0 arrests, 0 convictions. 50 years later, still no justice. The Doodler is one of the most prolific, uncaught serial killers in American history, and unless someone comes forward with new information, he always will be.